This episode, a really big shoe. In this episode, the Handyman Pros discuss proper footwear when working on your projects. Included are a couple of tips and tricks and recommendations on footwear selection. Welcome to the Handyman Pros radio show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros radio show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled, A Really Big Shoe. To help me explain, I'm here with my ever-cheerful co-host and old buddy, John. John, did you get some new shoes?
Did you get new shoes? And that was exciting.
Yeah.
That was,
folks, it tells you how...
It's really exciting.
I was going to say, it tells you how boring our lives are. We got new shoes. Woohoo!
Yeah, wait till we get to more stories on the trade rags. I read them so you don't have to. But I got new shoes. I got new shoes on your recommendation. And I'll tell you they're great. I used to have work shoes when I was as a mechanic, and
right.
But one of the things that we were talking about was some of the incidents, and you can tell your story, but I just, for my little story is folks, you really need to take care of your feet because I'm sitting there and I put in an empty a bottle of propane into my truck.
Ooh.
And I went to the store.
Ooh.
And I opened up the door. Well, that thing rolled out. Now we're talking maybe only 2 feet above the ground, and just hit me in the shin. Thank goodness, because if it landed right on my toes, I would be in real bad shape. Just an empty propane tank.
Oh,
yeah. So, anyway, so. Larry, I know you got a story on this, so why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I'm just going to tell 2 stories, and this is folks, this is just kind of one of this. The genesis of this show started because of the first story. So the other day, I'm just going out, and I'm actually I have a small hillside on the side of my house, and it was morning, and the grass was a little wet, and I was just going down to get, I don't remember, I was going to get something. I had a job that morning, and I was grabbing. I don't keep I keep some of my tools down in the shed that's down a little bit down the hill, and I just put my dock sides on, just kind of my flat bottom shoes, and I walked down that hill, and the grass was wet, and my feet went out from under me, and I did like a hurdler's stretch. Now, folks, I haven't done a hurdler stretch in like 20 years, and I swear I heard something snap in my ankle, and here we are 10 days later, and I'm not hobbling, but I still feel it. And I said to myself, LT, you cut a corner. You didn't put your good shoes on with the tread, right, to go down the hill. You cut a corner, and you're darn lucky. I mean, folks, I got to tell you, I'm lucky I could actually walk after that experience. I got done. I was like, man, I didn't pull a muscle in my leg. Or maybe I did in my ankle. I'm not sure, but I swear to God, I thought I was going to pull every muscle out of my legs because I cut a corner on shoes. So that was where I immediately, I think I texted Johnny saying we've got to do a show on on shoes. My second story is I've been wearing safety shoes for I'm going to say, gosh, probably 20 years, and I used to wear them in the vending business of all things. So folks, I was in the vending business for a very long time, and I just used to fill route, and you have no idea how much a 12-ounce can of soda hurts when you drop it on your toe, to the point that I bought steel-toed shoes, or I use composites, but anyway, I bought toe protection because it can hobble you. John, if that propane cylinder landed on your foot, it'd have broken your toes.
Oh, yeah.
So,
oh, no, absolutely.
So, folks, this is why we're having this conversation. We want to talk to you about shoes and protecting your feet in general. And I think we opened the conversation about how much time do you spend on your feet and what are the importance of proper footwear, right, John? So,
yeah.
I mean, you talk to a nurse, you talk to anybody that spends all day on their feet, even in retail, if you're just standing behind a cash register. I know when I'm working, I spend a lot of time on my feet. So I look at it as an investment. And there's a lot of things that go into a good shoe, right, John? So, tell us about your new shoes.
Well, I was going to say, just from the fatigue aspect of it, I used to go to a lot of conferences and user group meetings and things throughout the United States when I was, doing the software gig. And, I would be probably putting, 10 miles or more a day on. If you go to McCormick Place in Chicago and you walk that whole thing all day long for 3 or 4 days, you're putting on a lot of miles. And I finally, before I went, the first time I went, I didn't have good shoes, and it killed me. I mean, absolutely killed me. The next time I said, nope, I went down. I said, give me your best dress shoes, that feel like, tennis shoes, sneakers. And I paid for them, boy. I'll tell you, they were expensive, but man, it was like walking on air, which is a big difference. So, from a fatigue standpoint, it makes a huge difference. And You're absolutely right. If you talk to anybody like a nurse or anybody who's spending all day long on their feet, it's a big deal. So, so that's just from the standpoint of, like a business type of thing. But when you're in an environment where you got things falling all over the place and you're walking on different things like nails, you need to be thinking about that.
Yeah. And there's just a lot of things. So like everything, I think, John and I we talk about planners and we talk about you got to kind of think things through, right? So everybody has a different experience, right? And I know in this case, right, John, so it's summertime and I just bought new shoes as well, a couple of weeks before you actually asked me about them, and I bought 2 pairs of new shoes because I have basically what I call a winter pair of shoes and a summer pair of shoes. So my shoes for the cold are a little different. My shoes for the summer are more they look like athletic shoes is what they are. But I buy shoes from a particular retailer that specializes in work shoes, and I do that for a reason because they have, number one, they're a specialty retailer. It's really all they do. They sell work shoes, and I'll even name them. But I mean, I buy Red Wing shoes. Now, there's plenty of really good shoe manufacturers out there that build, we'll call them work shoes, right? Shoes and boots, I guess I want to say, work shoes and work boots. I happen to like the Red Wing brand just because I've had good experience with them. It's kind of one of those things. Not inexpensive, right, John? They're not inexpensive, but
it's an investment. If you want to try to compare, expensive, have one of your toes chopped off. If something falls on your feet, that's and you don't have protection. Now we're talking expensive.
Yeah. So. Well, even just and people laugh when I used to say this. You drop that 12-ounce can, folks. If you've ever dropped a 12-ounce can of soda, beer, soda, whatever, I don't care what it is, on your toes, you're in pain. Like it. I mean, it's not. You'll hobble for a bit. Yeah.
I mean, don't forget your feet are. It's like a hammer on concrete because your feet are flat on the ground, right? It's not like it hit your hand or something on the way down.
Right. So
it's quite the impact.
So what are some of the factors in shoes, John? Besides, we're not going to get into an orthotics discussion.
No, that was a good word right there, Larry. I'm glad you pulled that out.
Yeah, it's pretty good, huh?
You learned that in med school.
College. Yeah, it's the best 7 years of my life. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah. The anti-slip feature. Now, the shoes that I bought on your recommendation, so I'm not going to let you ever forget that.
That's okay.
But they have a very aggressive tread on the bottom of them, a sole, and it is great. And so, like you were saying, out in the wet grass, we're always walking around in, wet grass, mud, slippery mud, whatever it might be. You just want to make sure that you've got something that you're not going to just, all of a sudden, skate away on like you're on ice.
Yeah. Trust me. Don't try the hurdler's stretch unless you actually know how to do it, because you don't want to do it the way I did it. No thanks. Folks do. So another thing on anti-slip, John, and I don't know if you know this, but I'm pretty sure that the shoes we bought also have the oil. It's an oil designation also.
Yes, that is right.
So all this stuff comes out of, I believe it's out of OSHA, isn't it, John? Or it's OSHA or ANSI, either way.
Right.
But on the shoes, it'll say OSHA slip or ANSI, which is, what's ANSI, John? American Industrial Engineer, something.
Yeah, it's another standard, and OSHA has its own standards on proper footwear, and it really does protect you and the employer.
Right.
So if you're in these situations where you're walking around, and the thing you just brought up about the oil, if you're in a shop and there's oil being spilled out of machines and all that kind of stuff, and it's usually can be a very slippery surface around there. You just have to be very careful. So that's why some of these places require you to have some type of a protective toe and certain anti-slip soles.
Yeah. And so I mentioned that because some people don't know that exists. So that was just kind of one of my things. I've spent too much time in the shoe stores, so it kind of is what it is. So we talked a little bit about toes, about fall. Everybody knows about steel toes, right, John?
Yeah.
So
well, you should.
Well,
if you're in the business, I mean, listen, even as a DIYer out there, as a homeowner. Now we deal with this kind of stuff a lot, and just as a homeowner, even if you don't do this a lot, it's not a bad thing to have shoes like this,
right? Because
you spend a lot of time outside, and you just never know what you're either stepping on, what can fall on you. You're reaching over, you're trying to get that shovel off the wall, heaven forbid, you drop a shovel on your foot, something like that as it's coming off the wall that you've hung up. It's all kinds of things like that. And they just have them, become part of your outdoor, footwear when you're working in the yard.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. So tell them a little bit, John, you got different shoes than I got. So there is the traditional steel toe, as it's called, right? It's made of steel, right? But right. John, your shoes have what kind of toe in them?
They have I can't remember. I think they're aluminum. I think there's so there's probably an aluminum toe, then there's a composite toe.
Yeah, I have composite toes. So folks, if for whatever reason, the reason I started wearing composite toes is that in my vending job, I was going into a secure building and I had to go through the metal detector all the time. And I'll tell you, it was a pain when I had steel toes because it kept going off and then whatever. Anyway, so I went to composite toes. Guess what? No more problems. And those ratings are identical on all three of those toes. They're just different. So the aluminum ones are lighter than steel. I think they're actually lighter than the composite as well, as far as weight goes, of the weight of the shoe. And again, if you're on your feet all day, a lighter shoe is generally more preferable than a heavier shoe, right? As a general rule of thumb. But they all have that same OSHA standard of I think mine are 150,000 pounds crush. So it can take an impact of something that effectively puts 150,000 pounds of pressure on a single point, which, folks, is not really that much, by the way. That's not a lot of weight. It sounds like a lot, but when you put it at the tip of a pen or the tip of a nail, it's not that much. It's like you're putting that much pressure when you hit it.
Yeah, I think they have there's another standard that they have. Like X amount of weight falling from 3 feet or something like that. Some kind of test. Anyways, that it's just one of those things where Larry, I think the story, just going back to that story about the dropping cans on your feet, because when you're taking those cans out of like the rings and things like that, or just out of a case. Those things
that's when they would
around.
fall. Yeah, that's when they would fall.
And things move around. So folks out, when you're dealing with the stuff that you always deal with around your house, you can just kind of imagine, there you are on a workbench and you got a hammer on the workbench. You slide over, and the next thing you know, that thing comes, falling off the workbench onto your feet.
Yeah, it happens. I don't even notice it anymore, personally, but it happens pretty regularly, believe it or not. You're doing a job, you drop something, and right, because I wear these shoes, I don't even they hit my toes. I don't feel it, so I don't think about it. It's just kind of one of those things that it's really, really advantageous, I guess I want to say, to have that protected toe. I really like it. We wanted to describe. Now, I've had a whole series. I've bought inexpensive steel-toed shoes in the past, and just kind of what I find is that the toes can actually kind of start to dig into the top of your foot. And I found when I buy my Red Wing shoes that I buy, but I'm sure the other more quality brands are the same. They don't do that. They don't get that way over time. So that's one of the other reasons. These shoes also that we have a puncture resistance. So when we step on things, nails and other things, there's an OSHA puncture resistance also. So these are kind of little things to look out when you go look for shoes, that there's those. The other one is there's electrical as well. And I believe, John, that these shoes we have are electrically insulated as well. I'm pretty sure, because John and I bought the same pair.
Yeah, they're like 15,000 volts. And that's what the guy said, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not going to be the guy to test that. So
shocking, but
yeah. Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
but yeah, but you're right. So it has that. So they're fully OSHA compliant,
right?
Shoes. So once again, these are the kind of things that you don't really think about much, but make a huge difference if you need them.
Yeah, it's when you need them.
It's
when you need them. You're really glad you have them on. And
right.
then, John, you put down a note here about snake bites. So I want to hear more about this story.
Well, that's another one. They're pretty thick, and if you're walking around in the woods and things like that, you just never know what you're going to come up against. So now it's not to say that that I got bit in the thigh or something like that. Hey, you told me to put these shoes on. I'm not telling you that, but just doing a little background checking on the shoes. That is one of the things that does help with snakes and other things that sting and bite and everything else.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in snakes, that you basically keep your eyes open and you move away from them when you see them.
Yeah.
So, it's called situational awareness, and understand if you're walking in the woods, and especially if you live here in the South, that copperheads really look like leaves. They really do. So look for movement. But anyway, that's
if you live out west, those rattlesnakes look a lot like the land out there.
Yeah,
you got to be real careful.
Yeah, I get it. There's one other thing we didn't mention too, and this comes to your planning. So I just described that I have two pairs of shoes. I have a winter pair of shoes and a summer pair of shoes, and a good pair of shoes should protect you from the elements as well. So you want to make, and think about this stuff. But I mean, I have my summer pair of shoes, which are kind of lightweight in a little area, and my winter shoes are a little more closed in, and they're much more waterproof, obviously, than my summer shoes. But in the summer, I don't care if my feet get wet, because it's summer and it's hot, and so they dry out. Mm-hmm. But that's that. Is there anything else, John, on shoes that you're thinking about?
No, and I like the strategy, that you have. Now, I don't have two pairs of shoes because, down here it's not, the weather's not too extreme in the, even in the winter. But, for anybody else out there that has, big time seasonal changes, that's a good strategy to have, because they like we were talking about, they have now athletic shoes that meet OSHA requirements, and they're really light.
Our shoes look like running shoes, don't they?
Yeah,
my summer shoes look like running
shoes, and they can breathe and everything. So it's a good strategy to have if you're doing a lot of work in those climates. For me, I'm okay, with the winter around here. But if I was up in Chicago, absolutely, I'd have a pair of boots.
Yeah, it's called thigh-high boots, because you want them up high enough that you can get through the snow.
Right.
Yeah, it's a totally different.
It's called stay on the couch.
Yeah, it's that kind of
with
thing.
A blanket around you.
Do you want to know the real reason? Well, I'll tell you the real reason, folks. The real reason that I buy 2 pairs of shoes is I hate going shopping. So when I'm in there, I'm buying more than one so that I don't have to come back. And trust me, I love the people at the shoe store, but I hate it's such a chore for me. I'm like, no, I'll buy 2 shoes, and I'm usually good for about 2.5 years on shoes. Actually, I think I got 3 years out of my 2 pairs of shoes the last time. So that's the real reason why I do that. But anyway, and then I just do one. It's just one for one season and one for the other ones. But I'm really liking these new athletic shoes. They're quite comfortable. Actually, they might become my new ones. So I'm not really sure. But anyway, John, with that.
Yes.
Tell me, the other day you were telling me the story about this spaceship landed in your yard. Did the dude come out wearing shoes? Did he have shoes on?
He was asking me where he could get a pair. He was jealous that I had them.
Yeah, because he knew you were going to take his ship apart.
That's right.
That's what it is. He's like, man, I need my safety shoes or my toe's going to get cut off. Right. My single toe.
Don't mess with me, buddy. These things can stand 15,000 volts.
That's right. That's right.
Put that ray gun away.
That's right. Put that ray gun away. So, folks, if you enjoy the Handyman Pros radio show, please tell your friends and neighbors. We've just found that if you pass on the good words, that people will listen, and hopefully that's kind of our goal. We want people to get some value and have a good time listening to our show, even our bad jokes and all. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, please send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. You can go also on Facebook. We are at Handyman Pros. We're also on Twitter at Handyman Radio. And thank you for listening, folks. We will see you next week on the Handyman Pros radio show.